The snow fell in thick, heavy flakes across the sprawling metropolis of New Geneva, Earth's most advanced spaceport city. Neon signs flickered through the crystalline curtain, advertising everything from quantum processors to interstellar travel packages. The year was 2387, and humanity had spread across 17 star systems, yet somehow the magic of Christmas Eve still brought people together on the old. Doctor pulled his coat as he hurried down the crowded street, his breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. His 7-year-old daughter Emma skipped beside him, her mittened hand clasped firmly in his. They had just finished Christmas shopping at the Orbital Mall, and Emma was practically vibrating with excitement about tomorrow morning. "Daddy, look at all the pretty lights." Emma pointed up at the holographic Christmas decorations that danced between the towering buildings. Angels made of pure light soared between snowflakes that sparkled like diamonds. Smiled, though exhaustion tugged at the corners of his eyes. Being a single father and at the Galactic Research Institute meant long hours and little sleep. But Emma's joy made everything worthwhile. "They are beautiful, sweetheart, just like you." As they turned the corner toward their apartment complex, noticed something unusual. In the shadow of a massive transit hub, where thousands of humans and aliens passed every hour, a small figure huddled against the cold. At first glance, she appeared to be a human child, perhaps 10 years old, with long silver hair that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. But as they drew closer, strained eye caught the subtle differences. Her ears were slightly pointed, her eyes were larger than a human's, and her skin had an almost translucent quality. Most striking of all, she was trying to sell something to the passing crowds, small glowing sticks that looked remarkably like old-fashioned matchsticks, but these gave off a soft, warm light. "Matches for the cold night," she called out in accented galactic standard, her voice barely audible over the city noise. "Light for your home, warmth for your heart." People hurried past without stopping. Humans, even a few of the friendly Delphine traders, everyone seemed too busy, too focused on their own holiday preparations to notice the small alien girl. Emma tugged on sleeve. "Daddy, why is that girl sitting in the cold? Where are her parents?" Paused, watching the scene unfold. The girl's clothes were thin and worn, clearly inadequate for Earth's winter. She wasn't begging, wasn't being pushy, just quietly offering her wares to anyone who might listen. There was something dignified about her posture despite her obvious need. "I don't know, Emma," said softly. He recognized her species now, Lunarian, from the moon colonies of 442b. Their people were known for their artistic abilities and their strong family bonds. Seeing one alone, especially a child, was deeply unusual. "Can we help her?" Emma asked, her young voice filled with concern that made his heart swell with pride. Before he could answer, a group of teenagers walked by, laughing loudly. One of them deliberately kicked at the girl's small collection of glowing matches, scattering them across the snowy pavement. "Get a real job, alien freak," one of them sneered as they continued walking. The Lunarian girl didn't cry or shout back. She simply began gathering her scattered merchandise, her movements careful and practiced, as if this had happened before. The matches continued to glow softly, even lying in the snow. That was when made his decision. He had spent his career studying alien life forms, learning about their cultures and biology. He knew that Lunarians were peaceful, family-oriented beings who valued kindness above all else. Whatever circumstances had led to this child being alone on Earth streets on Christmas Eve, she deserved better. "Emma, stay close," he said, approaching the girl carefully. He didn't want to frighten her. The Lunarian child looked up as they approached, her large, luminous eyes reflecting wariness and hope in equal measure. Up close, could see that she was shivering, and her lips had taken on a bluish tint from the cold. "Hello," said gently, kneeling down to her level. "My name is, and this is my daughter Emma. We couldn't help but notice you're out here alone. Are you all right?" The girl studied them both carefully before responding. "I am of the Silver Valley clan," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality typical of her species. "I am well, thank you for asking. Would you like to purchase a light stick? They burn for many hours and provide both illumination and warmth." Examined one of the glowing sticks more closely. The craftsmanship was exquisite. Each one was carved with intricate patterns that seemed to dance in the light they produced. These weren't just simple tools, they were works of art. "These are beautiful," he said honestly. "Did you make them yourself?" A small smile crossed his face, the first expression of happiness he'd seen from her. "Yes, sir. It is the way of my people. We craft light from the sacred trees of our. Each stick carries a piece of home within it. Emma had been listening intently, and now she stepped forward. Are you cold? You look really cold. Smile widened slightly. I am accustomed to it, little one. My people are hardy. But could see the telltale signs of hypothermia beginning to set in. As a scientist, he knew the physiology of various species, and Lunarians, despite their apparent hardiness, were not adapted for Earth's harsh winters. There was temperate, with gentle seasons and no extreme weather. Said carefully, where are your parents, your family? The light seemed to dim in her eyes. They have gone to the great light, she said quietly, using what recognized as a Lunarian euphemism for death. I am alone now. How long have you been alone? Emma asked, her young heart clearly breaking for this alien girl who seemed so sad. Since the harvest moon, replied. I have been traveling, selling my lightsticks to earn passage to the outer colonies where I have distant family. Did quick mental calculations. The harvest moon had been 2 months ago. This child had been surviving on her own for 2 months, in a civilization that wasn't even her own species, trying to earn enough money for interstellar travel. The thought made his chest tight with emotion. Have you eaten today? He asked gently. Hesitated before answering. I had some nutritional paste this morning. 1 meal in the entire day, on one of the coldest nights of the year. Looked at Emma, who was staring at with the kind of immediate, uncomplicated compassion that only children possessed. He thought about their warm apartment, about the Christmas dinner he had planned for tomorrow, about the gifts under their tree. Then he thought about this brave little girl, from a species known for their kindness and artistry, sitting alone in the cold on Christmas Eve, trying to maintain her dignity while slowly freezing to death. The decision was easy. He said, his voice warm but serious, would you like to come home with us tonight? We have a warm apartment, plenty of food, and tomorrow is Christmas. No one should be alone on Christmas. His eyes widened in surprise. You would invite a stranger into your home, an alien stranger. You're not a stranger, Emma said firmly. And Daddy always says that the best way to make friends is to be kind to people who need kindness. Felt a surge of pride at his daughter's words. Emma's right. Besides, it's Christmas Eve. If there's ever a time to help someone who needs it, it's tonight. For a long moment, said nothing. Could see her weighing her options, probably wondering if this was too good to be true. Finally, she spoke. Your kindness honors me and Emma. I would be grateful for your hospitality. As they helped gather her remaining lightsticks and rose to head home, had no idea that this simple act of compassion was about to change not just their lives, but the course of interstellar relations for generations to come. He was just a father who couldn't bear to see a child suffer, offering warmth on a cold night. Sometimes, that's exactly how the most important stories begin. The snow continued to fall as the three of them walked toward home, Emma chattering excitedly about Christmas traditions and listening with growing wonder. Behind them, the street where she had been sitting alone seemed a little darker, a little colder, as if something vital had been removed from it. But ahead of them, warm windows glowed with promise, and for the first time in months, allowed herself to hope. The warmth of the apartment enveloped like a gentle embrace as guided her through the front door. She stood in the entryway for a moment, simply absorbing the sensation of being truly warm for the first time in weeks. The apartment was modest but comfortable, filled with the lived-in warmth that spoke of a happy home. Emma immediately began chattering, pulling off her winter gear and bouncing with excitement. You have to see our Christmas tree. Daddy and I decorated it ourselves, and we made some of the ornaments in art class. The Lunarian girl followed Emma into the living room, her large eyes taking in everything with wonder. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, covered with twinkling lights, handmade ornaments, and small mementos that clearly held special meaning. But it was the overall feeling of the space that affected her most deeply. This was a place where love lived. It's beautiful, said softly, her voice carrying genuine awe. We have the festival of growing light during our winter season. We decorate the sacred silver trees with crystal formations that sing in the wind. But this has a different kind of magic. Emerged from the kitchen carrying a steaming mug of hot chocolate topped with marshmallows. Here, he said, offering it too. This should help warm you up from the inside. Accepted the mug carefully, inhaling the rich, sweet aroma. What is this substance? Hot chocolate, Emma explained, flopping down on the couch. It's made from cocoa beans and milk and sugar. It's basically liquid happiness. The Lunarian girl took a tentative sip, and her entire face lit up with delight. This is extraordinary, the warmth, the sweetness. It's like drinking concentrated joy. Settled into his favorite chair, watching with scientific curiosity mixed with genuine concern. Now that she was in good light, he could see the toll that 2 months of hardship had taken on her. She was too thin, and there was an exhaustion in her posture that spoke of constant stress and insufficient rest. He said gently, "If you don't mind me asking, how did you end up on Earth? Lunarians don't usually travel this far from your home system." His expression grew somber as she cradled the warm mug in her hands. "My parents were artists and archaeologists. They came to Earth to study ancient human cave paintings for a research project about the development of artistic expression across species. They said that understanding art was the key to understanding the soul of any people." She paused, taking another sip of the hot chocolate before continuing. "They were in the mountains of what you call Tibet, documenting paintings in a remote cave system. There was a landslide. The authorities said they died instantly." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "That's so sad. I'm really sorry." "Thank you, little sister," said, using an affectionate Lunarian term that made Emma beam with happiness. "They lived with great purpose and joy. I try to honor their memory by continuing their work in my own small way." Leaned forward, his scientist's mind engaged. "Is that why you craft the light sticks? They're not just for survival, they're art." Nodded, a spark of enthusiasm returning to her voice. "Each light stick tells a story. The patterns carved into them represent different aspects of Lunarian culture, history, and philosophy. My parents taught me that art is how we share our souls with others, even across species barriers." She reached into her worn pack and pulled out one of her remaining light sticks, holding it up to the Christmas tree lights. The carved patterns seemed to dance and shift as the light played across them. "This one tells the story of the first contact between Lunarians and humans," she explained. "See here, these intertwining spirals represent the initial uncertainty, while these branching lines show how our peoples learned to understand each other. And this central pattern, it represents the bridge of knowledge and friendship that was built between our worlds." Examined the light stick with growing amazement. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, but more than that, it was a sophisticated piece of storytelling art. "This is museum-quality work. These should be in galleries, not sold on street corners." "I tried the galleries first," admitted quietly. "But most humans see only an alien child with strange crafts. They do not understand the stories the lightsticks tell." Emma had been listening intently, and now she stood up with the determined expression she wore when she had made an important decision. "Well, that's just dumb. Your lightsticks are amazing and your stories are better than most movies. Right, Daddy?" Nodded, but his mind was racing. He was beginning to understand that they weren't just dealing with a homeless alien child. They were hosting a young artist carrying on an important cultural tradition, possibly one of the last practitioners of her craft. He said carefully, "You mentioned distant family in the outer colonies. Do you have any way to contact them?" Shoulders sagged slightly. "I have been trying for weeks. Long-distance communication is expensive, and my messages have not been returned. I believe they may not wish to take responsibility for an orphaned cousin." The matter-of-fact way she said this broke his heart. Here was a child who had been abandoned by circumstance and seemingly forgotten by her remaining family, yet she maintained her dignity and continued creating beautiful art. "Well then," Emma announced, "you'll just have to stay with us until we figure something out. Right, Daddy?" Looked at his daughter's determined face, then its expression of cautious hope, and felt something shift in his chest. "Emma's right. You're welcome here as long as you need." "But I cannot accept such generosity without offering something in return," protested. "It would dishonor both our families." "Actually," said, an idea beginning to form, "there might be something you could help us with. Emma, remember how we talked about your school project on alien cultures? Maybe could help you understand Lunarian traditions." Emma's eyes lit up like the Christmas tree behind her. "That would be amazing. Would you really help me? I want to learn everything about your people." For the first time since they'd met, her smile was radiant with genuine happiness. "I would be honored to share the stories of my people with you, little sister. And perhaps you could tell me more about human traditions. I have studied your species academically, but I have never experienced your culture from within. Oh, we have so many traditions, Emma began excitedly. Like Christmas morning, we open presents and eat special breakfast foods, and then we have a big dinner with all our favorite foods. And we watch Christmas movies and play games and— Emma breathed, laughed. We have plenty of time to share our traditions. Tomorrow is Christmas after all. As if summoned by his words, the apartment's communication system chimed with an incoming message. Frowned, wondering who would be calling on Christmas Eve, and activated the viewer. The holographic image of Dr. Sarah appeared, sister and a diplomat with the Galactic Relations Council. Her usually composed expression showed obvious excitement. I'm sorry to call so late, but I have incredible news. The Lunarian Council has just made an unprecedented announcement. They're establishing a new cultural exchange program with Earth, and they specifically requested a human liaison who understands both xenobiology and art history. The position comes with a massive research grant, and she paused, noticing standing behind. Oh, I didn't realize you had company. Glanced at who had gone very still. Sarah, I'd like you to meet of the Silver Valley clan. She's been teaching us about Lunarian culture. Sarah's diplomatic training kicked in immediately. She offered the traditional Lunarian greeting, touching her fingertips to her forehead and bowing slightly. The light of understanding illuminates our meeting, young artist. His eyes widened in shock. Not only had this human woman greeted her in perfect Lunarian formal style, but she had used the specific title reserved for young practitioners of the cultural arts. You honor me, wise diplomat, replied, returning the greeting with precise formality. The light of understanding flows between us. Sarah's expression grew increasingly intrigued. Where exactly did you find a young Lunarian cultural artist on Earth, and on Christmas Eve, no less? As began to explain the evening's events, he noticed something extraordinary happening. Was listening to the conversation about the cultural exchange program with growing excitement, and one of her light sticks, which she still held in her hand, was beginning to glow brighter. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was that all the other light sticks in her pack were beginning to glow as well, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Emma whispered in wonder, "Your lights are doing something magical." Looked down at her pack in amazement. I don't understand. They only glow like this when they're responding to strong emotional resonance, usually during important ceremonies or— She stopped speaking, her eyes growing wide as realization dawned on her face. Or when they're in the presence of someone who truly understands their purpose, she finished in a whisper. And Sarah exchanged glances, both recognizing the significance of what was happening. In the space of a few hours, a chance encounter on a snowy street was revealing connections and possibilities that could reshape interstellar relations. But for Emma, the magic was simpler and more immediate. Does this mean gets to stay for Christmas? She asked hopefully. Looking at the young Lunarian artist surrounded by glowing light sticks, her face radiant with the first real hope she'd felt in months, knew that this Christmas was going to be unlike any other they'd ever experienced. Yes, sweetheart, he said softly. I think it means much more than that. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside the warm apartment, something far more precious than the weather was transforming. Loneliness was becoming belonging, strangeness was becoming understanding, and three very different individuals were discovering that families aren't always born. Sometimes they're built from kindness, one warm gesture at a time. Christmas morning arrived with the kind of perfect snowfall that made the world look like it had been wrapped in silver tissue paper. Woke slowly, for a moment forgetting where she was, then remembering with a rush of warmth that she was safe. She was warm, and she was not alone. The couch where she had slept was incredibly comfortable compared to the cold streets and shelter benches she had grown accustomed to. But more than the physical comfort, it was the emotional warmth of being welcomed that made her feel truly rested for the first time in months. Wake up, it's Christmas. Emma's excited voice carried from the kitchen, followed by the sound of laughing and shushing her. Let our guest wake up naturally, Emma. Not everyone celebrates Christmas morning by becoming a human alarm clock. Smiled, stretching carefully. On the Festival of Growing Light began with quiet meditation as families watched the sunrise together. But there was something delightful about Emma's unbridled enthusiasm that felt like its own kind of sacred celebration. She padded into the kitchen to find preparing what appeared to be a feast. The aromas were extraordinary, sweet and savory scents that made her stomach growl audibly. "Good morning," said warmly, flipping what he had explained the night before were called pancakes. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I have in many weeks," she replied honestly. "Thank you for your kindness. I hope I have not imposed too greatly on your family traditions." "Are you kidding?" Emma said, bouncing in her chair. "This is the best Christmas ever. We get to share our traditions with someone who's never experienced them, and you get to teach us about Lunarian celebrations. It's like cultural exchange right here at our breakfast table." Set a plate of pancakes in front of, along with small dishes of syrup, butter, and what appeared to be preserved fruit. "Emma's right. Having you here has made this Christmas special in ways we never expected." As took her first bite of pancakes, her eyes widened with delight. The flavors were complex and comforting, sweet without being overwhelming. "This is wonderful. The texture is so different from any food I have experienced." "Wait until you try maple syrup," Emma said. "It's basically tree blood, but in the most delicious way possible." Tree blood looked alarmed until she saw laughing. "Don't listen to Emma. Maple syrup is made from the sap of maple trees, but it's perfectly harmless. In fact, it's delicious." After breakfast, they moved to the living room for what Emma had been anticipating all morning, the opening of Christmas presents. Had worried about this part, since they obviously hadn't prepared any gifts for, but Emma had insisted they would figure something out. "Traditionally," explained to as they settled around the tree, "families exchange gifts on Christmas morning. It's a way of showing love and appreciation for each other. Like the gift-giving of understanding during our festival of growing light," said nodding. "We create art for those we cherish, and in the exchange we share pieces of our souls." "That's beautiful," said, and he meant it. "I wish we had known you were coming so we could have prepared something special for you." Looked surprised. "But you have already given me the greatest gift possible, acceptance, warmth, and belonging. I could ask for nothing more." Emma, however, had been thinking about this problem since she woke up. "Actually, I do have something for you, but first you have to open this." She handed a small wrapped package that didn't recognize. At his questioning look, Emma grinned. "I wrapped up one of my favorite books. I want to have it so she can learn more about human stories." Carefully unwrapped the gift, her movements reverent and precise. Inside was a well-loved copy of The Little Prince, its pages softened by many readings. "This was my mom's favorite book," Emma explained quietly. "She read it to me all the time before she died. It's about friendship and seeing with your heart instead of just your eyes. I think you'd like it." Felt his throat tighten with emotion. He had been wondering how to explain to Emma that sharing her mother's book was incredibly generous, but she had already moved on to her next surprise. "And now for your real present," Emma announced, disappearing into her room. She returned carrying something wrapped in a soft cloth. "I made this for you last night after you fell asleep." Unwrapped the gift to reveal a small wooden box that recognized as one of Emma's art projects from school. But Emma had transformed it, painting it with silver and blue designs that clearly mimicked the patterns on light sticks. "It's a special box for your light sticks," Emma explained proudly. "I know they're important to you and they should have a beautiful home. Plus, I painted the story patterns you showed us on the sides. That way, even when you're not telling the stories, the box remembers them." For a long moment, simply stared at the box, her large eyes filling with tears. When she finally looked up, her voice was thick with emotion. "Emma, this is the most precious gift I have ever received. You have not just made me a box, you have shown me that my stories, my culture, my people's art, it matters to you. You have seen the value in what I carry." She reached into her pack and one of her finest light sticks, its patterns more intricate than any had seen before. "This is for you, little sister. It tells the story of the friendship that bridges stars, how connections between different peoples can illuminate the darkness and create new light in the universe." As Emma accepted the light stick, it began to glow with warm, steady radiance. "It's so beautiful, and it's warm." "It responds to the warmth of your heart," explained. "As long as you carry kindness within you, it will provide light and comfort." Was about to comment on the remarkable properties of Lunarian craftsmanship when his communication system chimed urgently. The screen showed an incoming priority message from the Galactic Relations Council. "I'm sorry," he said, "but I should take this. It might be important." The holographic image that appeared was not Sarah this time, but Director Wei, the head of the Galactic Relations Council and one of the most powerful diplomats in human space. "Doctor," the director said formally, "I apologize for interrupting your Christmas morning, but we have an extraordinary situation developing. Word has reached the Lunarian Council about a young artist of the Silver Valley clan who has been creating traditional lightstick artworks on Earth. They are very interested in establishing contact with this individual." Glanced at who had gone very still. "May I ask why the council is interested?" Director's expression grew serious. "Doctor, the Silver Valley clan were the master artists of Lunarian civilization. Their lightstick techniques were considered the highest form of cultural expression. The clan was thought to have died out completely during the Great Plague 15 years ago. If this young artist truly carries their techniques and knowledge, she would be the last living repository of an entire artistic tradition." Finished, understanding dawning on him. "Precisely. The Lunarian government is prepared to offer full cultural status, artistic residency on Earth, and unlimited resources to preserve and teach her knowledge. Doctor, we're not just talking about helping one orphan child. We're talking about saving an entire cultural heritage." Had been listening with growing amazement. "The council knows of me." "More than that," director continued. "They want to offer you the position of cultural ambassador to Earth, with full diplomatic status. You would be the youngest ambassador in galactic history, and your role would be to teach Lunarian artistic traditions to both humans and Lunarians who wish to learn." Emma jumped up excitedly. "Does that mean gets to stay on Earth forever?" "If she chooses to accept the position, yes. She would have a permanent residence, full educational support, and the resources to establish a proper artistic academy." Looked at who seemed overwhelmed by the sudden transformation of her circumstances. "How do you feel about all this?" For a long moment she was quiet, her hands clasped around Emma's lightstick. When she spoke, her voice was steady but thoughtful. "For months I believed I was the last of my clan, carrying traditions that would die with me. I sold my art on street corners because I thought no one cared about preserving what my parents taught me." She looked at and Emma with deep gratitude. "But you showed me something I had forgotten, that art is not about preserving the past, it is about building bridges to the future." She turned to face the holographic display. "Director, I am honored by this offer, but I have one condition." "What condition?" "I accept the position of cultural ambassador, but I want Doctor to serve as my human liaison and cultural advisor. And I want Emma to be the first student in my artistic academy." She smiled at her new family. "They showed me that the true magic of art is not in the creation, it is in the sharing. I want to share this new chapter of my life with the people who saved not just my body from the cold, but my spirit from loneliness." Emma squealed with delight, throwing her arms around. Felt his eyes misting as he realized how profoundly their lives had just changed. Director smiled broadly. "I think that can be arranged. Doctor, would you be interested in heading the new Lunarian Cultural Studies program at the Institute?" Looked at his daughter, who was practically glowing with excitement, and at who had gone from a homeless orphan to a galactic ambassador in the space of 12 hours. Sometimes the universe has a way of arranging itself that defies all logical explanation. "I think I'd be honored," he said quietly. Later that evening, as they sat around the Christmas tree with light sticks adding their warm glow to the twinkling lights, Emma asked the question that had been on her mind all day. "Do you think this is what your parents would have wanted, for you to become an ambassador and teacher?" Considered the question carefully, watching the patterns of light dance across the walls. "I think my parents wanted me to understand that art is the language of the heart, and that through art, we can speak to anyone, regardless of species or background. Today I learned that they were right." She smiled at both and Emma. "You didn't need to understand Lunarian culture to see that I needed help. You didn't need to speak my language to offer me kindness. And Emma, you didn't need artistic training to create something that touched my soul." She held up the decorated box Emma had made for her, which now housed her most precious light sticks. "This is what my parents dreamed of, not just preserving our art, but sharing it with others who could add their own light to it." Tucked Emma into bed that night with a heart full of wonder at how quickly life could change. As he kissed her good night, she looked up at him with serious eyes. "Daddy, do you think we saved, or did she save us?" Thought about the question as he turned off her light. They had found selling matchsticks in the cold, alone and forgotten. But in opening their home to her, they had discovered something they didn't even know they were missing, a sense of purpose that went beyond their small family unit. "I think," he said softly, "we saved each other." Down the hall, sat by her window looking out at the snow-covered city. In her hands, she held one of her light sticks, its glow steady and warm. Tomorrow, she would begin a new life as a cultural ambassador. She would teach and learn, preserve and innovate, build bridges between worlds through the ancient art of her people. But tonight, she was simply a young girl who had found her way home through the kindness of strangers who became family. And in that warm apartment, surrounded by Christmas lights and filled with love, she understood what her parents had always tried to teach her, that the greatest art of all is the art of connection, the masterpiece created when hearts recognize hearts across any distance or difference. The light stick in her hands pulsed once, warmly, as if in agreement. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside, three souls had found their way to exactly where they belonged.